Hello and welcome to Elvenhome, and to this edition where I complete the work up at the St Eldar's Churchyard to really renovate the churchyard from what was there before. So no more from me. Let's go back a few weeks when I was starting work on laying out the new churchyard. Picking up from where we left off at the end of the last video, I thought I would show you the work that I've been doing since that video went out. So this is now the Thursday after the video went out. And it's taken a bit longer to do these things, mainly because it's waiting for things to dry. Because it's really important, I've discovered, that if you stick things in, before you start doing things like static grass and the rest, you let everything dry. Because otherwise, the moment you put the glue back on, you find things that you thought were fixed are no longer fixed. So to go along, I think in the last video, I'll try and see if I can zoom in here. It's probably pixelated it a bit, but you can get to see the earth that's been put below the tree roots so that they now sit in the grass. Don't know if I can bring some light onto this a bit better. Yes, that's better. You can see the grass where the roots are sitting in. So those two trees are now in position firmly. This tree on the house here, that's now been stuck in position. Though I haven't done the soil thing underneath there. I think it looks fine as it is. I don't think I mentioned that the chimney pots have all been replaced on this and on the station. I've yet to make my mind up what to do about this grey blob outside the station. My original thought was that it would be a turning point for the bus when it comes up. And it's not got much further than that at the moment. But one thing I have done is to use the 4mm flower tufts by Pico to completely fill what was just soil under here. So they've all gone in around these bushes, and I think that was really as a comment from my wife when she was looking at it, saying, are you going to put grass in that area? And I did think initially about grass, but then I came across a packet of these flower tufts, which I have here for a moment, and I'll put them on camera so you can see them. I think Pico still make them. I thought I had them here. Oh, here they are. I don't know if, because I know Pico with their grasses are going over to Scenic as the supplier, but this is the packet that I was using. And as you'll see, quite a lot of them have been used, because I've also put them underneath, if I move down here, the bushes at the front of the vicarage, and to complete this section round here, which has I think made quite a bit of difference. I also came across a packet of buddleia that I'd bought, and you'll see the white ones poking their little heads up, and you may see the blue ones that are also have gone in here and here, and there were 10 buddleia, so they've gone in all along the front here and then around and underneath the trees that have gone in there, and there's a couple more which you can't quite see from this position into here. That brings me to where I am with the I'll zoom back out again, hold on a moment, there we go, to the churchyard, and the position that I've got to is that the trees roots are all in place, so they've been stuck in place, and they've had put round them some of the Woodland Scenic's fine earth. I think it may be called grass actually, but it's doing the job that I want it to do, which gives a mossy feel to clagging around the tree roots. And I've painted the tree roots with some mascol, which is produced by Humble and is a masking medium, and when I then did this pathway and did all the putting the fine ballast on, this wasn't entirely dry, which is why some of the roots appear to have stone stuck to them. When I scrape the mascol off, that will come off, and that's why the mascol is on there, because when I do the grassing, which I'll be doing in a bit, obviously the first one is done into glue, but then after that you use sprays, and what I didn't want is all these roots covered in completely covered in static grass. So the hope will be that yes, static grass will cover this area in some ways, but not all the tree roots, and when I peel the mascol off, it should leave me with tree root that has nothing on it. I use some Woodland Scenic's very fine ballast to replace the pathway here, partly from an idea that Donald gave me, Highlander 66, in reply to one of my last videos, that the area around here could become a pathway. And that got my brain thinking, which is a bad thing. So I thought this needed to change anyway, because it just didn't, it was the wrong colour apart from anything else. And I may need to address, I don't know if you can still see it, you can still see it. This is the same stuff that was there before. That probably is okay as the entranceway to the vicarage, but it didn't look right for the pathway. So this is the same ballast, it's just ballast essentially, that went on there. And then I was playing around with the weathering powders and put some fine earth, some concrete dust, some green moss, and then a little bit, but only a little bit, of the black dust or soot colour. And I'm happy with that. This has gone on subsequently, only today, and is currently drying, but is pretty well dry now, I'm pleased to say. And this was Donald's idea, that you can put a pathway around the old green bit, which will make blending in the new much easier to do, and that it could be the pathways through the vicarage, through the graveyard, which is what I've done. And then I will put the grass on top and blend in over these, so that there will be bits of this visible, but only bits, and not the whole thing, I hope. Because once I do the first layer of grass, I will then probably put some masking tape along bits of this, so that this doesn't then become completely covered when I'm using the layering spray. This is taking us up to where the can you see my finger? Yes. Where I'm going to be putting the Commonwealth war graves, which will go there under a tree, and I think will look rather nice. So the next thing for me to do is leave this now just to completely dry, but I wanted to show you this before I started putting the scenic grasses on, and we'll see how that comes out. I'll do the first, which is going to be a mixture of 1mm summer and spring, just to give me the base. And you'll see that actually, and it's a useful thing to remember, because I think a lot of people go for absolute worrying about scale with static grass. 1mm is 6 inches, which is quite long for grass. But even when I put that on, it will look patchy because the brown will show through. And it won't be till I put 2mm on top of that and other grasses that it'll start to look right. But again, 1 foot for a blade of grass is very tall grass. But I think you've just got to accept that, because if you were going for prototypicality, you would have to be putting grasses on that were 1/4 millimeter high, 3 inches, to be anything near typical. So, rant over. I will go on. I will carry on with this and come back once I've put the first layer of the 1mm grasses onto the layout. Having faithfully promised to come back to you when I put the first 1mm grass on, I was convinced that I'd recorded a section which had just the 1mm grasses on, but I cannot find it anywhere. And I think the only place that it's ever been recorded is in my imagination. So what you are seeing is something that has all the grasses on. I did put the 1mm on, as I said. When it was finished, you could still see the brown underneath, which I expected. That was no great surprise because it's just so short. I then put 2mm summer onto the grass, and then I went over with 2mm autumn from Javis scenic static grass, which I'd not used before, and it came out really rather nicely. And you'll see the tinge. There are places where I deliberately didn't put some of it, but there's, which I suspect patchy grass is what it would be described by other makers. One of the things that happened halfway through, after I was just starting to do the layering spray, was that my Pico layering spray gave up the ghost, which was a bit annoying. So I had to go and get some of the Scenic layering spray, and the difference was astonishing. Really, really impressed with the Scenic layering spray, because the grass came out of the hopper standing up much more than it came out using the Pico one. So I'm not surprised that I think Pico are going over to being supplied by Scenics for their static grass stuff. But I was really impressed, and the effect has been much better than I've achieved anywhere else on the layout. You'll see at the back that the Commonwealth war graves have gone in. I'll put up here first of all a little a picture that I took, which I was sure I talked about in this clip that I'd recorded. To get them to work, they're very light, and I immediately encountered a problem that trying to get them to stick into the static grass that was there was really problematic. And so the solution that I came upon, which you'll see in the image that you're looking at now, is that I stuck them to a piece of 0.75mm square strip styrene, and I cut a groove in the static grass which I could fit the strip styrene in. It also meant that I would get all the graves reasonably equidistant and in a straight line, which, as you'll know if you've seen these graves, they are very precisely arranged. And then after I'd finished that, I very gently with tweezers put grass in between to cover over the bar. I decided against the pathway leading to them, partly because I realised that the pathway actually was a bit too far over, and I just wanted them positioned there as like an area that's now been devoted just to that area. What I then started doing, because I was thinking to myself, right, you've finished off doing the grass, you must now do the recording. But as you'll see, gravestones have appeared, and I was halfway through beginning to lay out the gravestones. I'm going to put the biggest ones on first, and then I'll do, and these are the ones that I originally made and that were on there before, and then I can start adding the remainder that you saw in the box before. That I think is going to take me a little while, because I want to put them all on and then I can move them around until I like the general look, remembering that gravestones by and large do not go in serried ranks unless you're on a Commonwealth War grave cemetery. So I will want to make sure they're sufficiently jumbled up. And of course, as a human being trying to do anything random, that is not our natural way of doing things. So I must try and avoid any attempt to bring too much order and just fit in all 250 graves now into the graveyard. So I'll come back when I finish that bit before I put the trees on, so you can see all the graves before the trees go back on. Here you can see the graveyard now with all the graves in place, and with some but not all the figures that I intend to put in here. I intend to put perhaps 4 or 5 more, maybe a few more than that. This is quite an old graveyard, apart from the Commonwealth graves, and what I'll do is I'll put up here some footage I've already taken, so you can have a closer look at the graves and the way they've all been set out. I mean, it is really interesting. This is 250 graves. I suspect if I really wanted, I could put another 100 in there. If I really wanted, there's plenty of space still. But I think this is much better than what was there before. And I wanted you to see this before I put the trees in, which will be the next thing to do once I've got the final figures in. The graves have all been stuck in using PVA. I did wonder about using super glue, and I did a couple like that, but I didn't like them. It left a bit of a mark, the super glue. It also had a propensity to stick the grave stone to my fingers, which was not what I was after at all. But the PVA I bought recently is really strong, much stronger than you normally use, and the beauty of that is it grabs quickly. So that worked really well with the gravestones, and most of them needed nothing to help prop them up. 1 or 2 decided to feel a bit lazy, and so they were propped up with 1 or 2 things, and 1 or 2 I just left looking a bit odd, because you do in old graveyards. But I'm pleased with how this has come out. So the last thing to be done is put a few more figures in, and then I can put the trees on. And when I've done that, I think that probably will be the end of the video, but I'll come back once I've completed all that work. Here you can see the completed churchyard, and I'm really pleased with the effect. Now all the trees are back in. I put a few more figures in, but not many, because by and large churchyards tend not to be full of lots of living and breathing people. So I'm pleased with how that's come out. And the only bit that I've got to complete now, which is slightly off camera, but I won't move it, which is, if I move my hand in, up by the station. I really can't make my mind up what goes in there. Something's got to go in there because it just looks a bit bare. But the muse has departed me, so I shall leave it, and perhaps by the time you come back next time, you'll see what it is I eventually decide to do. With completing this bit of the layout, I must confess I'm not quite sure what I'm going to have a go at next. So again, that will be a nice surprise for you. Although I do have to seriously start thinking about the design for the upper level of what will be the new layout. and also thinking about actually getting some baseboards commissioned. I think I've mentioned before that I don't have any woodworking tools, and I live on the 3rd floor, and I don't have any access to anywhere where I could do any woodworking. So I'm going to need to get the baseboards made for me, either from companies that make baseboards, or I was looking at local joiners who do bespoke work. So there's I need to go and investigate that a bit more. But otherwise, that really brings the video to a close. If you've got any comments, please do let me have comments. If you've liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, because there's a new layout that will be coming in the new year, I suspect, at some point, because Revolution trains thanks to Ian's Engage, where he took some footage of the cabinet showing the underground stock, and also the expected dates for delivery of the underground stock, which I think is looking more likely towards the end of Q1 than into Q2, and that's really encouraging, and the underground stock really does look superb. So have to start thinking about the design for the upper part of that, and whether I'm going to try and model it on real roads in London, or create a kind of fictitious suburb or central part of London in which the railway station is placed. But otherwise, that's it from me for another 4 weeks until I speak to you again. Until I do, that's bye-bye from me. Bye-bye.